West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to particularly try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
You do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
Hey, here we go. Thursday morning, July 17. How about it? Welcome to the program this morning. Getting ready to bring you the news of the day all across the board and boom it out to you on Free Speech TV. You got a satellite dish, you know where to find us, DirecTV and the Dish Network. And then on TawkrTV, that's our video stream worldwide. Anywhere on the planet, you can pick us up. You have an electronic device, just go to youtube.com/Tawkr, TAWKR-TV, and stick with the program this morning. President Obama stepping into the briefing room late yesterday afternoon to announce slapping new sanctions on Russia because the situation in the Ukraine hasn't really improved. Russia's still backing the rebels there. The rebels have not pulled back. And so the president announcing again new sanctions on a handful of major corporations in Russia and certain segments of their economy and freezing other assets. Maybe that'll get Vladimir Putin's attention. Meanwhile, here on the local front, Chris Christie is coming out of hiding, coming out of hibernation, goes off to Iowa today, sort of for the unofficial launch of his 2016 presidential campaign. He says he hasn't made up his mind. It's just a coincidence that he is going to Iowa today and to New Hampshire later in the month. John Kerry is back from his round-robin tour of the world's hotspots. The latest is Vienna, where he reported to President Obama yesterday that they made a lot of progress in the talks with Iran about abandoning its nuclear weapons program, and there is some talk that they might extend the July 20 deadline, that's this Sunday, for letting those talks continue to actually reach a deal with Iran. And Congress leaves town today, still no action on the president's request for supplemental funding to fix problems at the border. Wherever it's happening, whatever's going on, we'll tell you about it. You tell us what it means to you at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
the canyon maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
New sanctions against Russia announced by President Obama yesterday. Now, maybe Russia will stop sending arms and soldiers into the Ukraine. Can only hope so. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? Hello, hello, hello. Great to see you today. Here we are on a Thursday, July 17. It is the Bill Press Show. We're there with you this morning, as we are every morning, to talk about the news of the day. It's a two-way street. We tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you and what you think about it all. You got some strong opinions. We all do. Well, express them by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Join the conversation. Whatever we're talking about or not talking about, give us a call. Again, 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. There with you every morning on your local progressive talk radio station to help you start the day and arrive at the office informed on the news of the day and maybe inflamed about some of the things that are going on. Here we go with our team here this morning, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, guys. Good morning, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz on the job, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And we're not only there on your local radio station, we are there with you on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Thanks to Cyprian Bolton, our videographer, who's cranked up the cameras and the lights this morning, and off we go.
That's it.
How about it?
Here we go.
Yeah. I saw a map yesterday of where wildfires are on the West Coast, and it is like a direct line all the way up the coast. California, Oregon, Washington, it is so dry. And particularly in Oregon, it looked like the entire state of Oregon's on fire. And in Northern California, fires which... by the way, some people say have been started in some of these still yet illegal marijuana. Do you realize there are some pot plantations in California?
That's what I hear.
What a shock.
Yeah.
What a shock to discover that.
Who knew?
Conan O'Brien last night pointed out that some are blaming these fires on the marijuana farmers.
A major wildfire in Northern California is now being blamed on marijuana farmers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone in the region's really angry about it, unless they're downwind, and then they're totally cool.
Just open the window.
They're just, oh yeah, my legs are on fire and I don't care.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And you have to excuse us this morning if we seem a little out of sorts. We are all just trying to come down this morning from yesterday's big high about our visit here with the Mayor for Life.
Mayor for Life.
Mayor for Life, Marion Barry, in studio with us. He's got a new book out called Mayor for Life. Buy the book. Buy the book. He kept saying, buy the book.
Buy the book.
And then he was hungry after his appearance here, so we took him downstairs to our little local
breakfast spot.
Breakfast spot, and had breakfast with Mayor out on the patio where everybody passing by had to stop by and say hello to the mayor.
It was incredible.
I mean, rock star.
Was genuinely incredible. He is the closest thing to a rock star that I've ever spent time with, because you notice he made a point to sit outside.
Yes. Oh yeah.
That was his request.
He wanted to sit outside, and
it was a nice day out yesterday, so that was good. But we picked a table right by the sidewalk. and
everybody stopped by.
For every person that actually came by and said hello to the mayor, there was another person who was gawking and looking like, oh my God, that's Marion Barry. People were freaked.
Yeah. But you know what's really impressive is he really has a touch with people, and the little people particularly, right? You know, it was the servers in a restaurant. He wanted to know all about them. The young people, servers in a restaurant, and the bus boys and everybody, the local manager, they all came over just to say hello, shake his hand, have a selfie taken with him.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it was amazing. And he wanted to know everybody's name and what their job was.
Yep. Yep.
And one guy, he met a young guy that they used to live in the same building or something like that.
Yeah,
and this kid, and this kid is now, he just got his MBA from George Washington University. And Marion Barry said, what are you doing here? Why are you still working at this restaurant? He says, well, I'm working here until I can figure out how I'm going to get a job with my MBA. And Marion Barry says, I'll help you get a job.
Yeah.
Give me your name and address. And Kid Rose's name and address. Also, didn't have a business card out, gave it to the mayor. Mayor says, I'm going to get him a job.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I'm going to get a job.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, it's good to remember because, you know, with this Rob Ford stuff, people always lump in Marion Barry. This is the guy that had a drug problem and all of that. But people don't talk about the really great stuff that Marion Barry did, legitimately, right? There's a lot of punchlines to that story, but...
I know. This is a different city and a better city and a bigger city and a more productive city and more exciting city because of the stuff that Marion Barry allowed to happen.
Yeah.
And in many cases, built himself.
Yeah.
You know, he was mayor for 4 terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he took it from a sleepy southern town into a vibrant world capital.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Got to give some credit like that.
And he's not slowing down either. He's still going.
He's like Louis XIV with Paris. He's our Louis XIV. The Sun King. Mayor for life.
Mayor for life.
Indeed. All right.
What's your name?
Lots coming up today. Yes, indeed. We have reporters in from Politico. You name it. We got it covered. Politico and Huffington Post and The Nation and The Hill and National Geographic. I mean, just for starters today, right? And Chris Christie, the bear is loose. The Republican bear is loose. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. We go to, where else? Florida, where helicopter pilot Paul Barth almost had a run-in with a drone. Like I mentioned, he's a helicopter pilot. He was covering a race, the charity run in Florida, from his helicopter. He's getting an overhead shot, and he saw an object in the distance coming right at them. He pulled up and watched the object dart straight under him. It turns out it was a drone that someone was using for recreational purposes. Now, they're both technically legal to use in that space, so now we have to start to worry about regulation and what's coming, and that's the next step here. But it was almost a very close call.
I didn't tell you. Carol's been up in Rhode Island. I have too for a couple of weekends, but I came back and to do the show. She was still up there, and one night they were out on the porch watching the ocean, and suddenly here's a drone.
Wow!
Went across the lawn, and it turns out that the neighboring house, some people had rented it. And they had a drone, and they were flying it around, out over the ocean, over the beach, along, yeah. Ooh, yeah.
We're in a time where it's just not that hard to get your hands on an actual drone.
No, and they have little cameras on them, probably, and they're taking pictures. I mean, this is bad news. Yeah, I would have if I'd been up there, I would have shot that drone down.
Yeah, surveillance issues.
You're up there like Elmer Fudd.
Damn
right. Congratulations to actor Jeff Goldblum. He is engaged to his girlfriend. Goldblum is 61. His girlfriend, Emily Livingston, is 31. He proposed to her while they were on a vacation to Hawaii. She is an actress and a gymnast. And, look, hey, 61, 31.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Well, she's in her 30s, right? That's okay.
She's in her 30s. That's a good way to put it.
May, December.
That's a good way to put it. And could we be saying hello to Captain African American? Captain America, Steve Rogers, is being replaced by Sam Wilson, who is the Falcon in the Marvel comic books. Joe Quesada, Marvel Chief Creative Officer, was on the Colbert Report, of all places, last night, and said that Captain America, Steve Rogers, in this latest storyline in the Captain America comic books, the villain has drained the superpowers from Steve Rogers, and the Falcon, Sam Wilson, is stepping into the shoes. He is an African American man. The first time we have a black Captain America.
And a female this week.
And Thor is the female. I reported that yesterday, so it's a bit...
We have a Captain African American. His name is Barack Obama. He's been president for 6 years. Jesus. I mean, you forgot?
I totally, sure. Yeah, we've had a Captain America this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. About time the comic books are catching up.
That's right.
All right. Yep, indeed. Starting on politics again today. Yesterday we talked about the excitement on the Democratic side with Elizabeth Warren stepping out to help Democratic candidates all around the country, certainly creating a lot of buzz and a lot of speculation about whether or not she's going to run in 2016 in the Democratic primary. I hope she does, hope she does, hope she does. Ready for Warren. We told you about that website, ready4warren.com. Well, today we want to take a look on the other side of the aisle because, boom, 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 the bear is loose today. Chris Christie, he's been in hibernation for the last 6 months, suffering with a little bridge problem. He thinks he's got that behind him. So far, no charges filed against him, at any rate, for having anything to do with those lane closures. And he is off today to any doubt that he's thinking seriously about 2016. He is off today to hopscotch across Iowa, the first primary state, of course. He is in his official capacity as head of the Republican Governors Association, but it is no coincidence that in his first moves, he is going to Iowa today and next week going to New Hampshire. Or at least before the end of the month. It's only 2 weeks away. He'll be hitting both the first primary and the first caucus state. I said primary state in Iowa. I meant to say caucus state. So no doubt at all, that's what Christie is up to. He thinks he's put his troubles behind him, and he made it clear yesterday at a little forum sponsored by CNBC and interviewed by CNBC's John Harwood, that he is, first of all, he says, I haven't yet made up my mind.
I'm in no rush to make those decisions. I got a pretty busy day job as governor of New Jersey, and I've got, a busy job politically as chairman of the RGA. We have 36 governors races across the country.
So no rush, but indeed, doesn't deny it, seriously considering it.
But I've been pretty clear, I certainly am going to consider it, but whether I do it or not is something I honestly don't know yet. And I think, people say that all the time, and folks are fairly cynical about, he knows what he's going to do. I really don't know what I'm going to do. And I think when you have 4 relatively younger children, like we have, and from 20 to 11, there's a lot to consider in doing this on a personal level, putting aside the politics. So, we'll decide. I'll decide, come the end of the year, beginning of next.
Look, I don't think there's any doubt that he's made up his mind. But my question to you is, how serious do you think he is, and how worried should we be? Do you think he's a serious contender? 866-55-PRESS. Now, a couple of things. Number one, I don't think it's Christie is kidding himself if he thinks he has all of his problems behind him. We still don't know, and there's exactly what happened with that bridge. There are still at least 2 investigations that I'm aware of into the decision-making to close those lanes. And I still refuse to believe, given Christie's style, that this happened in his office without his knowing anything about it. although we have not seen any evidence of that. It's just the way he ran things. He is a very hands-on governor. He's got that problem. There are problems with the budget. I think he's clearly out of step with the nation on same-sex marriage. So he's got some things he's going to that could easily trip him up. At the same time, when you look at the potential Republican field, okay, now let's remember who's out there. Marco Rubio, help me out, Peter, if I'm forgetting anybody. Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Rick Santorum, Jeb Bush, Rick Perry, Bobby Jindal. I mean, I'm not even going to put Michelle Bachmann on the list or Sarah Palin on the list. No, I mean, because they're, whatever. They're not going to run. I mean, people would laugh them out. Am I forgetting anybody?
What about Ted Cruz?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Ted Cruz. Okay,
you
good.
would remember that.
Thank
You're
you.
Canadian.
Yeah, right.
Sorry about that. I wish I didn't.
You're a fellow Canadian.
Fellow Canadians stick together. All right, Ted Cruz. I mean, Rob Portman.
That name has come up recently. Some people throw Mike Huckabee around here.
Okay, let's put Huckabee on the list. Yeah, and put Portman on the list too. But okay, you go down that list. Okay, let me run through it again. Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Rick Santorum, Jeb Bush, Rick Perry, Bobby Jindal, Ted Cruz, Mike Huckabee, Rob Portman. If I were a Republican, I would take Chris Christie over any one of them as the most winnable candidate. And as Democrats, I would fear Chris Christie more than any one of those other candidates because I think he is a better retail politician. He has more appeal. He's very colorful, let's say, for sure, character with a lot of personality and a bigger-than-life kind of person in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Let's face it. And so I'm telling you, I think Christie could be a real threat as a Republican candidate. And he's starting today. 866-55-PRESS. What do you think, Chris Christie? Should we be worried about him the way we're excited about Elizabeth Warren yesterday? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all of the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you know, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
27 minutes after the hour now, talking about Chris Christie, who's out there on the move today to try to not only help some Republican candidates in Iowa and in a couple of weeks within the next couple of weeks in New Hampshire, but also, of course, to sort of launch his own, test the waters for his own presidential bid in 2016. Here's what I find most interesting, too, and what we have to watch is, even though I think he would be, I believe, of the whole possible list, the strongest candidate among potential Republican candidates for 2016, the question is whether he could win the primary because whether or not Republicans would accept him. He's got the Charlie Crist problem. Pardon me. Now, he didn't exactly give President Obama a great big hug or a wet kiss when he came to New Jersey after Hurricane Sandy, but he did hang out with the president. He did go on the Marine One with him. He did tour the storm-damaged areas with him. And he did say the White House was doing a good job, which it did, in getting FEMA help to the victims of Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey. And for that, some Republicans will never forgive Chris Christie.
Rhino!
Right. They don't care about the bridge. They don't care about the budget. They don't care about the same-sex marriage. They just don't like the fact that he cozied up to Obama to get some help. I think most Americans think he did the right thing. I do. All right, more on Christie when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
All right, I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay, so who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, talking about Chris Christie is another story that caught my attention, which I wanted to get out there on the platform this morning, and something else you may want to talk about at 866-55-PRESS. And that's a big story, almost a full page, front page, in the business section of the New York Times yesterday about, here we go, e-cigarettes. This is the fastest, we've talked a little bit about them before, but the federal government still hasn't decided, what they're going to do about them. FDA has said they want to regulate them, but they haven't put out any proposed regulations yet. Congress has held some hearings, but hasn't passed any legislation yet. Meanwhile, e-cigarettes are the fastest growing segment of the tobacco industry, and more companies. In fact, this week we saw the merger of Lorillard and Reynolds, two of, if not the two top tobacco companies, are now $25 billion merger. Now they're one company, but both of them have been very aggressively going into the e-cigarette field. Why? Because that's where the money is.
All the money.
That's where the potential new, do we call them vapors or smokers? I don't. You know what I mean?
Vapor. Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I guess they're vapors, but they're really smokers at any rate. And to get there and to attract the audience, and you know who they're going after. That's the thrust of this New York Times story. I didn't realize this. There are now. We knew there were a couple of little flavors available, right? So it doesn't have to taste like a cigarette. And even cigarettes, you have the menthol cigarette.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is the only flavor that's been authorized for cigarettes.
Right.
Is menthol.
That's right.
You can't have a cherry cigarette. You can't have, whatever. Well, e-cigarettes, Katie bar the door. As of this moment, anything goes, okay? There are 7,000 flavors. 7,000 flavors available today in e-cigarettes.
Holy cow.
And here's all, by the way, 250 new flavors a month being introduced. They call it you have now for e-cigarettes, you have a rainbow of tastes.
Oh, God.
What do you think of this? 866-55-PRESS, and we've asked you before, I mean, don't you think these things ought to be regulated just like cigarettes? And isn't it pretty clear to you, as it is to me, whom they're appealing to with these e-cigarettes? So here are some of the flavors. You can get your e-cigarette in, I'm just going to read right across the board here, blueberry waffle, hazelnut, hazelwood, Irish creme, nutty squirrel, God knows what that is, tiger's blood, apple pie, all-American cigarette, all-American e-cig, apple pie, banana nut bread, banana split, cherry cheesecake, chocolate raspberry, gingerbread man, graham banana, graham cracker, mint chocolate chip, cotton candy. How about that? Look, who is that appealing to other than that's appealing to kids?
Yeah.
Bubble gum. There's a bubble gum flavor e-cigarette. You can't tell me that they're trying to lure kids into e-cigarettes so these kids will start smoking regular cigarettes. That's what it's all about.
I'm torn on the e-cigarette issue, right? Because we've heard from a lot of people who say it helped them get rid of really bad cigarettes, and this is a substitute.
And that's how they were started introduced that way, as if there's something really good happening. Look at this.
Yeah.
You can, instead of smoking, you can get the same impact and the same need, right? Take care of that need with something that's got a little nicotine in it, but still.
And they're smokeless. You don't smell it. If you do it in a restaurant, you never know.
No secondhand smoke.
That being said, there's still a lot of science out on this topic. And if you've got things like, I mean, come on. What grown adult is going to go out and get a bubble gum flavored cigarette? You know? And I'm sure that there are people who do it, but come on.
Now, the industry, they're fighting back at this hearing with the Senate Commerce Committee a couple of weeks ago. The head of one of these, it's called blue e-cigs, electronic. He says that cherry, for example, the average age of people using cherry-flavored e-cigarettes was 40. I still find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I used to like a cherry Coke when I was 10, but I don't.
You know,
I'm not into
cherry. I'm not so weirded out by, right? Like there are cherry cigars.
Yeah,
I would never, in a million years. But like, okay, there's cherry chewing tobacco. You know,
God, you know more about this than I thought.
well, no, I mean,
Of course, you're from the South.
I'm from the South. I know about these things. But like cherry chewing tobacco is not that uncommon. But when you start to get into like legitimate candy, right? Chocolate and mint and, chocolate milk flavored vapor.
No.
It's a next level. It's not just a fruity thing.
It's very clear. It's very clear what they're up to, what they're going, what the appeal is, and what the goal is. And it's to bring in as many kids as they can. 866-55-PRESS. What do we do about these? And I'll tell you, my feeling is they should be regulated just like cigarettes, and the same rules ought to apply. So you can have a menthol electronic cigarette, no others, and you can't smoke the cigarette in a restaurant, or your e-cig in a restaurant. Ozzy is out in Elgin, Illinois. Hello, Ozzy. Good morning.
What's going on, Bill?
Hey, you tell me what's going on.
No, I was on the way to work. I was listening to your right now, and I just heard about the vaporizer comments, and I just wanted to say that, in my opinion, as long as they're not killing people as the same way, like cigarettes are, there's many people a year, yeah, they should be regulated. Like when I go to the gas station and buy these little oil flavors, I get carded. I'm 25, and I still get carded for them. But as long as they're not causing the same amount of damage as cigarettes are, or alcohol, I don't see what the whole fuss is about.
But don't you think, Ozzy, that these exotic flavors that they're coming up with are really trying to get kids into using these, so then the kids will eventually pick up a regular cigarette, get smoking habit?
I think so, because I've seen people be frequent cigarette smokers, long time, cigarette smokers, but then I had supervisors that switched to these, and they started to stop using cigarettes slowly, over the weeks. Their count of cigarettes that they smoked would go down, and I think kids will probably be triggered towards it, but like I said, I don't think they're that harmful. Up to this point, I haven't found anything that says that.
I don't think we. Yeah, and I appreciate that, Ozzy. I don't think Peter. You mentioned this point earlier. I don't think we know yet exactly over the long term, because they haven't been around that long. How dangerous they are.
Yeah, exactly.
There is some nicotine in them, but there's not the other stuff that causes cancer. Or whatever.
Right. There aren't all the carcinogens that go into cigarettes. But we don't know the long-term effects. You're not getting the immediate danger of smoking. So that is a good thing, right? If you're a smoker and you're trying to kick, that's a good way to do it. And to Ozzy's point that it's not hurting anybody, that might be true. Right, it doesn't seem like it's doing a ton of damage in the immediate sense, but that just because it's not hurting anybody doesn't mean that it's appropriate for kids and things like that. There are a lot of things that adults can enjoy that don't hurt them that kids shouldn't be going out and doing.
Yeah, in is it Coates? Coates, North Carolina. Patrick, hello, Patrick. Weigh in here. What do you think?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just calling to say that one of the first things I was surprised about with e-cigarettes is you want to quickly, disassociate yourself with the taste of tobacco and go for the fruit flavors, the various flavors.
Yeah.
I never thought when I went in, I smoked the strongest tobacco I can find. On the bad thing, what I did run into was I had breathing problems, and there's been studies. I think a Dutch study has been done 6 months ago, I'm speaking of, your breathing capacity instantly. They tested it on non-smokers, on smokers. It really affects your how much air you can take in immediately.
The e-cigarette does?
Permanent damage, yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
I invested in it, and I thought it was, I was so grateful and thankful. It's cheaper, but, I'm breathing fine now, but I went through a couple months of
see that also speaks to Ozzy's point about not doing harm to anybody. We don't really know, and your point, Peter, about there's still a lot of science unresolved about the e-cigarettes. In the meantime, I think the FDA had better hurry up and catch up with this, because this, as the New York Times article indicates, with 7,000 flavors available, this e-cigarette business industry is out of control. Hey, when we come back, we want to check in with something else which is out of control, and that is surveillance in this country, particularly by the NSA. Richard Kreitner joins us from The Nation magazine.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, 12 minutes before the top of the hour, I saw an interesting headline yesterday, with all this latest flap about the IRS and the missing emails of Lois Lerner. Somebody suggested, that's easy. Those emails aren't lost. Just ask the NSA.
Sure.
I mean, they've got everything, right? They've been collecting emails, so there shouldn't be any problem. It's kind of a comic side, though, of this continuing mass surveillance of our private information, phone calls, and emails by the NSA. The Nation is out with a very, very important new ebook on that whole issue. It's called Surveillance Nation, Critical Reflections on Privacy and Its Threats, from the pages of The Nation going back as far back as 1931. Richard Kreitner is the editor of that new ebook, and he joins us for The Nation magazine, joins us on our news line this morning. Hey, Richard, good to have you with us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you point out that I guess today's problems are not necessarily all that new. This has been going on for a long time, right?
Oh, absolutely. Not only are today's problems not new, but the ambitions of the intelligence community are as far from new as possible, and the arguments, more specifically, that they use to justify those ambitions have never changed an inch since even before 1931. Since I would say the Red Scare after World War I.
And was this surveillance on American citizens or on foreign spies, if you will?
Well, most of what the nation concerned itself with was with American citizens, and that's mostly what the e-book is about. It's about every attempt at wiretapping since 1940, when the Justice Department first authorized it. It's about abuses of power, much more than just ordinary intelligence activity.
You said wiretapping as early as 1940?
Yeah. The Justice Department wanted to authorize, Roosevelt's Justice Department wanted to authorize wiretapping for a variety of crimes in around 1940, and they put it to a vote on the House floor, and it was defeated, and the Attorney General at the time said, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Wow.
And you mentioned the Red Scare. That Red Scare was under Woodrow Wilson, right? No?
Well, he was still president, but he was incapacitated by his stroke. It was mostly Attorney General Mitchell Palmer, whose house had been bombed.
Yeah.
But that actually led to the opening of a investigation of the nation itself in 1920 or 1921, which there's a whole history in the ebook. We FOIA'd that file in the 80s and found that they'd been investigating the nation itself since the early 1920s.
So as the technology changed, the intelligence agencies just changed with it, right? Using all the new advanced technology from, I guess, original old-fashioned phone taps up to today's electronic intelligence gathering. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of one of the most exciting strands to watch throughout the ebook. There's a fascinating article from 1966, which is called "The Computer versus the Bill of Rights," and it was written. There was a proposal to create a national data bank that came out of the Bureau of the Budget, which became the Office of Management and Budget, and that would have created essentially what the NSA has in Utah now, which is individual files on each of us. It would have gathered information from the IRS you were talking about before. It would have gathered information from the census and from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but that was defeated by a national outcry after it became public, and they just tucked those plans away for, I guess, 40 years and pulled them right back out.
Now, as this domestic intelligence gathering and surveillance went on for decades, was there always a need to have some court order or a warrant in order to spy on American citizens, or ever?
To the best of my knowledge, I think that came out of an Omnibus Crime Act that was passed in 1968. Mm-hmm. That brought wiretapping type activities under judicial oversight, but it was kind of a forerunner to the FISA Amendments Act of 2008, which you'll recall it was framed as limiting surveillance activity, but what it really did was give it a legal basis. And it's the 1968 Act which enables wiretapping abuse to even happen, just as the 2008 FISA Amendments Act, which is essentially the charter for the NSA's vast spying apparatus.
This is really, really scary stuff. Now, how can people find this ebook, Richard? Let us know.
Sure, it's thenation.com/ebooks.
Okay, thenation.com/ebooks. Check it out. We'll put up a link on our website as well, which we'll get into it more. We're up against the clock here. For you to find Surveillance Nation, Critical Reflections on Privacy and Its Threats from the Nation, going all the way back to 1931. Richard Kreitner is the editor. Thanks, Richard, so much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me very much.
Nothing new under the sun. There it is. They've been spying on us for a long time.
It's incredible.
This is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, just a footnote on what we were talking about with spying, electronic surveillance. I saw a story that Germany is considering the way to stop the USA from spying on them, and is they're going to go back to typewriters.
Good grief.
To manual typewriters.
Good grief.
For putting their information back and forth and not doing it through their cell phones or not doing it through the internet. Isn't that classic?
That's funny.
The return of the manual typewriter. All right. Edward Isaac Dovere from Politico joins us. Top of the next
This is
hour.
the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, here we go. Thursday morning, July 17. How about it? Welcome to the program this morning. Getting ready to bring you the news of the day all across the board and boom it out to you on Free Speech TV. You got a satellite dish, you know where to find us, DirecTV and the Dish Network. And then on TawkrTV, that's our video stream worldwide. Anywhere on the planet, you can pick us up. You have an electronic device, just go to youtube.com/Tawkr, TAWKR-TV, and stick with the program this morning. President Obama stepping into the briefing room late yesterday afternoon to announce slapping new sanctions on Russia because the situation in the Ukraine hasn't really improved. Russia's still backing the rebels there. The rebels have not pulled back. And so the president announcing again new sanctions on a handful of major corporations in Russia and certain segments of their economy and freezing other assets. Maybe that'll get Vladimir Putin's attention. Meanwhile, here on the local front, Chris Christie is coming out of hiding, coming out of hibernation, goes off to Iowa today, sort of for the unofficial launch of his 2016 presidential campaign. He says he hasn't made up his mind. It's just a coincidence that he is going to Iowa today and to New Hampshire later in the month. John Kerry is back from his round-robin tour of the world's hotspots. The latest is Vienna, where he reported to President Obama yesterday that they made a lot of progress in the talks with Iran about abandoning its nuclear weapons program, and there is some talk that they might extend the July 20 deadline, that's this Sunday, for letting those talks continue to actually reach a deal with Iran. And Congress leaves town today, still no action on the president's request for supplemental funding to fix problems at the border. Wherever it's happening, whatever's going on, we'll tell you about it. You tell us what it means to you at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty,
my power,
my life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
The Dow Industrial Average up, closing yesterday at 17,139. It's a record high. It's the 15th record high this year. Why aren't we talking more about that? Right. Why isn't anybody else mentioning that? The Obama economy roaring back. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. Thursday, July 17. It is the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Tell you what's going on here in such as there's any news at all from Washington, and also take a look at what's happening around the country, around the globe. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it all means to you. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS anytime on any topic. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Good to see you this morning on your local progressive talk radio station coast to coast, and good to see you this morning on Free Speech TV nationwide and around the globe on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. And don't forget, if you don't have not lucky enough to have a progressive radio station in your community, you can still hear the show through the TuneIn app. It's free. Just download it. Tune in, and then check the Progressive Voices channel. And there we are, we being me and Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy.
Hey now.
Hey, good morning.
Everything good with Alicia Cruz on the phones at 866-55-PRESS and Cyprian Bolding on the video cam.
It's already Thursday. Well, the week just
already
flew by.
Already Thursday. It's good to have the whole gang back together again. There's still people are still talking about the man who won't shut up, former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Oh yeah.
Everybody else, when they get out of the Oval Office, they observe the rules. You let the other guy take over, and you don't stand on the sidelines throwing spitballs, except for Dick Cheney, who said last week that he is not bound by those same rules, and he, remember, calling President Obama the worst president in his lifetime, and Dick Cheney has lived 150 years.
That's right.
Conan O'Brien said, but somebody appreciated what Cheney said.
In a new interview, Dick Cheney said he thinks Barack Obama may be the worst president of his lifetime. Yeah. And today, Cheney got a thank you note from Jimmy Carter.
Oh, how cruel you get. All right. Hey, we're going to start this hour on President Obama's big appearance in the briefing room late yesterday afternoon. We'll be talking with Edward Isaac Dovere, a good friend from Politico. Later, reporters from The Hill, from Huffington Post, and National Geographic joining us as well. But first, Peter.
This is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. There's a lot of talk about migrant children coming across the border. So, in Phoenix, Arizona Congressman or State Congressman Adam Quasman raced to Phoenix, or left Phoenix to go to the border because he was going to be there to protest the arrival of these migrant children in the school bus that had come over. He tweeted out, "The bus is coming in. This is not compassion." He included a picture of the back of the yellow school bus.
He said he saw the faces of these kids.
He saw the faces of the children.
The fear on their faces. Yeah.
The fear on their faces, ... This is not compassion, is what he tweeted. Well, turns out those were not migrant children. Those were campers at a YMCA.
Oh, no.
They were just children from Phoenix.
Just regular old kids.
They were going to day camp.
Camp is pretty scary.
That is pretty scary.
To be honest, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, maybe the fear on their face was the fact that this guy was.
But the worst part is he put them on a plane and sent them back to El Salvador.
Yeah, hey, look, you got to commit. You really got to commit. If you're thinking about having an affair, think about this. How much it will cost you to have an affair. A new survey from Voucher Cloud, a discount code site, took a look at how much it costs to have an affair. And they said that the average affair will cost you $2,664. Now
what's that based
How did they
on?
get to the... I'm glad you asked, Bill.
Now, wait, is that each time like a pop? Or
I'm glad you asked.
Or a year?
A pop.
Oh, no.
Here's the math. I'm glad you asked. So they said that the average affair only lasts 6 months.
Okay.
So they factor in all the things that you will spend on the affair over the course of 6 months. So that would be hotel bills, dinner and drink tabs.
Not many.
Gifts, date activities like movie tickets or things like that. And then miscellaneous, which I don't even know what that could cover. Well, I have an idea.
Well, I have a few ideas too.
That could be. But they say that it's over the course of 6 months, it totals out to be $2,664.
That's a cheap date. I got to tell you one thing. If I'm at an affair with anybody and they're not spending any more than $2,600 on me, I don't want anything to do with them.
Look, you got 6 months to spend that kind of money, okay?
So anybody's got any ideas, you better be ready to spend more than that. I go first class, baby.
That's good to know. And Bryan Cranston is coming back to TV.
Wow.
He is going to be starring in the HBO adaptation of All the Way. They are showing, the HBO bought the rights to the play, the bill that you have raved about, where he plays Lyndon Johnson.
Whoa.
HBO Films acquired the rights to the play, so they're going to shoot that as a movie. He is going to be starring in it, so he's coming back to TV.
He's phenomenal in All the Way, and of course, he won the best actor on Broadway.
That's right, for the Tony. Yeah, this could be the year of the EGOT for Bryan Cranston. You get your Emmy, your Grammy, your Tony, and your Oscar. You can go for all of them.
Go, Bryan, go! Absolutely. Yes, indeed. Unscheduled visit on the part of President Obama yesterday, announced just about a half an hour ahead of time to the White House briefing room. On a whole range of foreign policy issues. He started by announcing, the main purpose of it, I should say, he didn't start there, was announcing a new sanctions, which had been rumored, new sanctions against Russia because they continue to supply the rebels in Ukraine. Here, you got that, Elisa? Here's the president.
Repeatedly made it clear that Russia must halt the flow of weapons and fighters across the border into Ukraine.
And maybe these sanctions will get that done. Edward Isaac Dovere covers the White House for Politico, joining us on our news line this morning. Edward, good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Okay, so the president covered a whole wide range of issues. My question about those sanctions on Russia is we had sanctions before. It didn't seem to make any difference. Why do we think these will?
Well, the administration has been making the case from the beginning that sanctions take a long time to work. We need to be patient to see how it goes. But that if Russia doesn't change its actions, then step by step, the sanctions regime would be expanded and tightened. Mm-hmm. So that's what they did yesterday. It's not as if this is a major change to American policy toward Russia, but it is a continuation and extension of what they've been doing for the last couple months since this whole situation really started flaring up in February.
Well, and along the way, Putin keeps saying, we're going to stop sending supplies. We're not. He's made like almost promises to pull troops back from the border and all of that, and never followed through. Is that what's going on?
That is the American position here throughout. That there was a point, even about 6 weeks ago, I think it was, when Putin started saying, "Oh, well, we're taking all the troops away from the border," and the administration was telling us, both privately and occasionally they would make reference to it in public at some White House briefings, that there were satellite images that show that nothing was changing. And so they said it's very nice that he says he's moving the troops, but we can see he's not moving the troops or the tanks away. And more importantly, what the president was pointing to yesterday was that they've continued to supply people inside of Ukraine with weapons and with assistance to try to provoke instability there.
Right. So even though we're not talking about as much anymore, it looks like the situation in Ukraine hasn't vastly improved. Meanwhile, the president also had a progress report on the talks with Iran with a P5+1. It looks pretty clear to me that they're going to extend this deadline. Wouldn't you say the same?
One of the questions that reporters had at the end of that brief statement from the president yesterday was why he didn't just go ahead and announce that there would be an extension. He made it, I thought, as clear as possible that there would be, without saying, okay, so we're extending the talks. But he wanted to make sure to say how much progress he thought there had been, which seemed like it was part of an effort to stop Congress from going forward with passing new sanctions against Iran, explaining the logic for not doing that. So that's where things will go. But Sunday is the deadline, and I don't think anybody's really expecting that on Sunday we're going to have a full deal with Iran that takes care of the nuclear program. Right. He really covered the ballpark yesterday. Just looking through here from my notes from his remarks on Afghanistan. I didn't realize until yesterday that he actually talked with both of the presidential candidates last week. I remember at one briefing he had only talked to one of them, and people were a little critical about that, but. And then he very quickly called the other one. Yeah, exactly right. So now they're going to review every single vote cast in that election. I guess for John Kerry, this was a real coup, wasn't it? Well, we'll see. We'll see. I guess the coup is maybe that there wasn't a coup. Yeah, exactly. Good. Well said. Look. For right now, things are better in Afghanistan than I think most people would have expected a week ago. Yep. But it's still Afghanistan, and so though there hasn't been any violence to this point, there hasn't been any seizing of power to this point, just means that that's where things are to this point, and this remains a very tricky situation. But Kerry... in the midst of, he was in China working on some stuff with the Asian relationship, and then was headed to Vienna to deal with the Iran talks. He made basically a stopover in Afghanistan and got both the presidential candidates there to hold off in going forward with some of the things that people were expecting would happen as they started to fight in a non-democratic way, not fight at the ballot box way, and so that's where things are. It's not a small accomplishment, but on the other hand, it may just be a temporary accomplishment. Right, correct. But as you say, better off today than we thought things were going to be just a week ago. We're talking again with Edward Isaac Dovere from Politico, Politico.com. You know, the president also touched on the Middle East, of course, but I thought overall that his purpose to me in coming out yesterday seemed to be to say, look, I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. My approach to all these foreign policy things is it's a complex world, and we just stay patient and calm and work our way through them. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah, I mean, I sort of tweeted a little bit snarkily after it that the short appearance there from him amounted to him saying the world is a strange and scary place, which is what he was doing. Yeah. He finished, though, by saying but America has a role as a leader, and I have a plan, and I'm going to make sure that we get to where we wanted to go on this. This is not the world is not in great shape right now, and what he does not want is for any of these situations to spin out of control. We also he talked about the situation in Israel and Gaza as well, which is maybe the one that in the most immediate could spin most out of control.
Yeah.
But he doesn't like the sense that can start to take hold in people's minds that he's out of control, that he's kind of just letting the world move over him.
Yeah.
And this whole argument that America is not leading is one that his administration feels is completely wrong given what they're working on.
Yeah, so I wanted to show, we're involved we're up to date, we're working on all of these things. Let me ask you this. Were you surprised that he didn't take questions yesterday?
Well, he's been doing that a fair amount lately. And I guess I'm still at the point when, because he has not taken questions for so long, that when he does take questions, I am surprised. When last week he was in Dallas and made the speech about immigration, about the border crisis, and what he wanted to do about the immigration stuff there. And then he took a lot of questions.
Yeah.
That surprised me. So I was a little bit expecting him to take questions, but when he walked out, it felt like we were back to old times.
Yeah. And he took questions. Remember when last time he was in, and I was surprised yesterday at any rate. But he covered the waterfront, and we've been able to do so with you again this morning. And I appreciate your time. Thanks so much, Edward. See you a bit later down at the down to shop today. Edward Isaac Dovere covering the White House for Politico.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it. And they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go at 26 minutes after the hour. Alex Bolton from The Hill, a senior staff writer. We're going to do a hopscotch across the country and look at the big Senate races. 36 of them, 31, I forget, in the 30s anyhow, coming up this year. Some very, very important ones. Alex Bolton will run us through all of them. But I got to say, so every once in a while, this story captures my attention. Here's my favorite. Here's my favorite off-the-wall kind of story of the year. This is out of Moab, Utah. I've been there, all the national parks, there's several national parks around there. And a 78-year-old woman was reported missing. She was due at some library event. And she didn't show up, and people so they called the authorities, and the authorities went around, and they went into one of the National Arches National Park.
Okay.
And they found her car, and then they hear this woman, they hear her screaming for help and everything. She was caught in quicksand. I mean,
wow.
That's a real thing?
Exactly. I remember being
exists?
afraid of quicksand as a kid. I never knew if it was for real. Fortunately, she'd gone for a little hike by herself, and she had a bottle of water. For 14 hours, she'd been stuck in quicksand. One of her legs sank up to the knee.
Oh, my God.
And she couldn't get out. And they dug her out and carried her in a litter, back out of there into a hospital. In quicksand.
I thought that was kind of like an urban legend.
I did, too.
Yeah, it was like cartoon stuff.
Right.
No, exactly. Right. I didn't know it was for real.
Now I got that to worry about.
One more thing.
Yeah.
So I guess the moral is don't go off the trail. Because I don't think you'll get stuck in quicksand on the trail. But, she's lucky she had a bottle of water with her. 14 hours she's caught in quicksand. Yeah. She's just lucky she's alive.
This
Alex Bolton
is
next.
The Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000.
you'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
On a Thursday morning, July 17. Good morning. Welcome to the program here, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And we're brought to you this morning by the National Education Association, our great teachers of America, the good men and women of the NEA under their new president, Lily Eskelsen, making a difference in America's classrooms every day, you bet. And you can find out more about their good work at their website, NEA.org. Well, the Congress is in session. They leave today. They've got another 2 weeks before they take off, and then they are out of here to basically campaign for the rest of the year. Some very important races up, particularly 1/3 of the Senate is up, 33 seats contested this year. We want to take a look and see of that, how those races are going, because they impact, of course, the very important question of which party controls the United States Senate. Alexander Bolton is senior staff writer for The Hill, the great newspaper covering what's going on at the White House and here and at this end of Pennsylvania Avenue in the United States Congress. Alex, it's nice to see you. Good morning.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. Things are keeping you busy over there?
Yeah, there's. The big news on Capitol Hill is this border crisis with all these kids coming across, and it's becoming an unexpected, issue, and it's one that both sides need to get fixed by August, because that's when Immigration's Customs and Enforcement is going to run out of money.
It's also when the Congress goes home for the summer.
And that's
right?
when they go home to campaign for 5 weeks.
So they will have some resolution, do you think, of this request for supplemental funding by the time they leave? I mean, they can't just walk away from it. Or having said that, they've walked away from a lot of other issues, right? Unlikely that they will, no?
I don't know. It's a really tough issue, because the question is whether the law needs to be amended to allow the administration to send these tens of thousands of kids back without a court date, without due process. And the way this 2008 William Wilberforce trafficking law was written, these kids get access to a lawyer, to a translator, to a counselor. They have to go through the court process. It's very expensive and it's very time-consuming, and that's what's chewing up all the federal resources. That's why Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Homeland Security, is begging for money from Congress, and so the Republicans don't want to give this money unless this law that creates this fiscal problem is solved. The Democrats don't want to change the law because they say it's denying due process rights to these kids, and the Hispanic community, Latino community, doesn't like it. It's Luis Gutierrez, an outspoken voice in favor of immigration reform, Democrat from Illinois, says this is deportation in wolf's clothing. So the Democrats don't want to anger the Latino base by changing this 2008 law and hastening deportations at a time when the president's saying, well, maybe I'll slow deportations and take executive action. And Republicans are saying, well, we're not going to give this money unless we find a way to change this law so that we don't have this big expense. It's just going to keep on building up.
And Senator Feinstein has come out and said that there's no need to change the law. The flexibility is in the law to deal with the problem, but they need the money to hire more judges and maybe create more detention centers but deal with the problem, basically.
Yeah. And the administration at first said that they wanted the law changed, but after getting pushback from the administration, they've backed off their position and now saying, well, only what we want is the ability to send these kids home right away if they volunteer to be sent home right away. But for me, it's a little bit hard to understand how these kids whose families have paid thousands of dollars to put them with smugglers and send them all the way here, why they would agree to a free trip home when they could instead get a counselor and advocate, be placed with a family member here in the States, and spend 3 to 5 years while their asylum request plays out.
Meanwhile, while they are dealing with that issue, as you alluded earlier, what they're really thinking about is saving their political butt, and how they're going to win their reelection, particularly in the Senate. I mean, so control of the Senate is still up in the air. I mean, it could go either way. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, it's a 50-50 proposition. I spoke the other day to Jennifer Duffy. She's one of the handicappers with the Cook Political Report.
Yep, she's great. She's been in the studio here with us many times, yeah.
And she says it's 50-50. And even though the Tea Party has not performed to the Democrats' expectations. They were hoping for another Todd Akin or Richard Murdoch or Christina O'Donnell. That hasn't happened, and that's a disappointment for Democrats in places like Mississippi. But they, even though the Tea Parties aren't going to give the Democrats the boost they did in the past, one key difference this cycle is people aren't as mad as they were in 2010, for instance. In 2010, the last midterm where Democrats lost the House and a bunch of Senate seats, people were just so angry about Obamacare.
Yeah.
They've kind of become numb to it. And when you talk to Democratic strategists, they say that the Republican game plan of just trying to tie Democrats to Obama and Obamacare, it's not enough. It's enough to rev up their own base voters, but it's not enough to win the swing voters. So,
there was a poll out last week from the Commonwealth Fund that showed that 74% of Republicans who signed up for Obamacare love it. So that's one of the reasons we don't hear as much talk about repeal Obamacare. I mean, we have the Boehner lawsuit, but it's not the one signature issue that they had planned to make it. But if it's 50-50, so just on the numbers, Republicans to get control of the House Senate would need to win 6
seats. Yes,
6 seats. Okay. I want to talk about some of the more important ones, or the more maybe hotly contested ones. You mentioned Mississippi. The contest down there, at least for now, is not between Democrat and Republican, but still, even though we've had the primary and the runoff, between 2 Republicans.
Yeah, and Chris McDaniel, the Tea Party challenger, is fighting this in court. He says that there was voter fraud. He says, his lawyer said that these African American Democratic voters have skewed the primary and that they were paid off. But he claims a lot of fraud and outrageous action, but he hasn't produced a ton of evidence yet. So I think it's going to be tough for him to win. The other thing is, now this recount's being thrown to the government establishment down there, which is controlled by the Haley Barbour crew and the same establishment that wants Cochran to win. So I think it's very tough. I think it's very tough for McDaniel to win at this point. I think it's pretty much over.
So will then the Tea Party people rally behind Cochran, or just sit it in the general, or sit it out? And can Cochran win without them?
I think he probably can, because he won the primary by appealing to Democrats after all, and he said, look, I deliver for this state. And he is a very senior member of the Appropriations Committee, and that still is important in Mississippi. And the Democrats have a good candidate in Travis Childers, but I don't think that he's going to be able to beat Cochran. And what Democrats were saying before this Republican primary is that had McDaniel won, they would have been able to they would have put money in it. They were hinting at it. They were pointing to some of his outrageous statements, which I think we talked about on a previous show. But with him gone, I think it's very tough to justify putting in that money against Cochran, although he is older and although there have been articles questioning his competence and awareness. I still think that's going to be an uphill battle. And with so many other tough battles to fight, I think that's where the Democrats are going to put their resources. They have so many incumbents who are fighting for their political lives. Those guys are going to be demanding the money from the campaign committee.
Right. Democrats were hoping to be able to run against Chris McDaniel, but it didn't happen. Let's talk about one incumbent running for her life. Big article here on page 4 of The Hill this morning with a picture of Kay Hagan from North Carolina. Very successful in raising a lot of money. You were one of the authors of that. No, you're not, actually. But on top of these. But still a very tight race for her, right?
Yeah, a very tight race for her. One advantage she has is that her opponent, Tom Tillis, he has a role in the legislature, and he's had to guide that session to the end, so he hasn't been able to focus all his time on the campaign. And she outraised him pretty substantially. She's done a great job raising money. And North Carolina is not a deep red state like Mississippi, so she's looking pretty good.
Is she the most vulnerable Democrat?
I think the most vulnerable is Mary Landrieu.
Okay.
Because
we'll get to Louisiana next then. So let's just finish up on North Carolina. How would you call it?
It's too early to call any of these. You just have to see how it plays out. Voters aren't even paying attention now, and the polling isn't that good. I mean, if you look through the polling of these various races, what you see is there are Republican polls out there and there are Democratic polls, but there isn't a ton of independent polling. And as hard as it is for people to believe, in Washington, voters don't really start paying attention to this stuff until after Labor Day.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very hard to tell. And also, we have to see just how much money is going to be spent. The Koch brothers and their various affiliated organizations are talking about $290 million in this campaign. There are various numbers being batted around. The question is, how much of this money gets spent? Where does it go? And how effective is it? And I think one of the surprises of this cycle so far is, while already I think Hagan has had almost $20 million spent against her, some huge sum, it hasn't really torn her down in the polls. And we're seeing that of other Democratic incumbents as well. Although there's a lot of outside money being spent, it hasn't really hurt their standing, because I think voters have become a little bit numb to these outside groups, and I think they distinguish between what the candidates are saying and what hired guns from Washington, D.C. and elsewhere are saying. And that's why the Democrats are doing pretty well so far. But as the a year wears on, I mean, we still have a few more months. We have the rest of July, we have August, we have September. There's going to be more and more spending. Will the Democrats be able to stand up to that barrage? And that's the real question that's going to that these races are going to hinge on, and that's why it's, I think, too early to say.
All right, so Mississippi, North Carolina. When we come back, we'll take a quick look at some of the other important Senate races this year. Louisiana, we referred to. We've got Alaska. We've got New Hampshire, Arkansas. At least those 3 or 4 with Alexander Bolton from the Hill. Any questions or comments, or if you're in one of these target Senate states, always welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Control of the United States Senate, it's on the line, and it will be decided right here in the next 11 minutes here on the Bill Press Show with Alexander Bolton from the Hill newspaper. Man, I just identified 6 more states, Alex. We'll run through quickly as many as we can. Just give us the headline on Louisiana.
Well, in Louisiana, Mary Landrieu is perhaps the most vulnerable incumbent. And if you talk to senior Democrats on the Hill, they say she is the most vulnerable incumbent. And what makes it especially tough for her is that if she doesn't win 50% on Election Day, this goes into a runoff. And that's going to be and a special challenge for her because the obstacle Democrats face in this midterm election is turning out their base, which is pretty apathetic, as they usually are in midterm elections, and they're even more so now because we're into the late second half of Obama's of Obama's administration. So the question is, once she gets all her voters out on Election Day, can she rev them up to come back out on December? And the Republicans are going to be throwing everything they have at her. So that is a tough challenge. Also, Obama's numbers in the state are terrible, and that's pulling her down. And but what she has going for her is she's chairman of the Energy Committee, and she'll make that argument.
And she's a great candidate too. She's a very, very aggressive candidate. New Hampshire, Scott Brown trying to make a comeback. Jean Shaheen says no way.
Well, the funny thing is, since Brown got into the race or started to tour the state, his numbers have gone down. So he is now down by around 12 points. So it looks like this race isn't going to be as close as people thought. And Brown has a penchant for making some gaffes, and he has to fight the carpetbagger tag, and that's not an easy one. And the Shaheen's folks love to point out that quote from Brown where he acknowledges, "Do I have the best credentials? Probably not, but whatever." And so, looks like it'd be a real shock if he won.
Arkansas, David Pryor. This was considered a real potential problem for Democrats as well. How's it look?
Well, Pryor was considered a goner a couple months ago, but he's run a good campaign, and his opponent, Tom Cotton, the representative from Harvard Law School, has not. And he's run a pretty weak campaign. And so there was a poll a while ago that showed Pryor up 10 points, and that made everyone think, wow, he's got it. But since then, the polls have tightened, although these have been partisan polls, so it's a little bit hard to tell exactly what's going on. But Pryor's dad, David Pryor, represented that state. The family's well known.
That's right. It's Mark Pryor. I said David. Yeah. That's his father, right? Sorry.
And the latest thing that those two have been squabbling about is Pryor's faith. The Cotton campaign said that Pryor is just like Obama, someone who only goes to church on Sundays, isn't a real Christian. And now Pryor has come out with an ad, him sitting in his study or his den, it looks like, reading the Bible and saying, you can't call anyone out on their faith. Who the Bible says don't judge others, and it's a pretty effective ad, and I think it shows that Pryor comes across very well as a person. I think Cotton is not, he hasn't, I think, really connected with the voters yet.
Mistake for Cotton to go there. Alaska, Mark Begich.
Begich is a fantastic candidate, and he's a really hands-on candidate. He's really running his own campaign, and he knows what's best for Alaska, and he really knows how to speak to the voters of Alaska. So there is a three-way Republican primary that's going to be decided in August, and once that's done, then the general election will heat up. Republicans are slamming Begich as someone who lately isn't that effective. They're pointing out the fact that he has only had something like one amendment voted on, and perhaps actually I think it hasn't had a single amendment voted on since his time in the Senate. But Begich's argument is, look, I may not get legislation on the floor, but I get stuff in the bills, and he points to a variety of stuff. So he's feeling pretty good, and he could have a secret weapon in Lisa Murkowski, his home state colleague, who is an independent Republican and has actually voted with him a fairly high percentage of the time. So that could be his inoculation from charges that he's just a rubber stamp for Obama.
Kentucky. Is Mitch McConnell in trouble?
Well, Democrats love to point out that Kentucky has that in Kentucky, McConnell has the worst numbers of any incumbent. So they say, well, people talk about Pryor and Landrieu and Hagan and Udall. McConnell has the worst numbers, and so he's the guy that we have a real chance of knocking off. Grimes, his opponent, has raised a ton of money. She's raised more than anyone else. She just, I think, raised $4 million. The issue here, though, is when you talk to reporters who've been to Kentucky, who've met Grimes, they question whether she's a good enough candidate. There's some whispering that she doesn't go beyond her talking point. She's not that substantive a candidate. Is she for real? Is she someone that voters can see as representing their state and bringing home the bacon as McConnell has for many years? And so while they hate McConnell, I think Grimes has some work to do to prove that she is someone who can actually serve the state ably in Kentucky.
All right. We made it through most of them. We still have West Virginia out there, but we'll have to save that for the next time. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Hey, Alex. Great to see you.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here.
All right. And the rest of the summer, we'll get you back in pretty soon. I'll be back and tell you what President Obama's got on his schedule today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, what do you say, folks? Hour number 2 almost over. We're ready to move into hour number 3. I want you to stay with us. We lose you on Free Speech TV. That's too bad, but we have an option for you, which is our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV. And in the next hour, Daniel Stone from the National Geographic will be in with the latest on climate change. And then Christina Wilkie from the Huffington Post here as well. Christina to talk about her latest article on the Koch brothers. Hour number 3. Don't miss it. Stay with us.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
Daniel Stone from National Geographic here at the top of the next hour on the Bill Press Show. President Obama on the road today, going up to Wilmington, Delaware, my home state, to talk transportation funding, and then up to New York City for a couple of fundraisers, one for the Senate and one for the House tonight. He'll be back at the White House about 10:30 this evening. Busy day for President Obama, and
This
one more
is
hour
the
coming
Bill
up.
Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. There was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
The Dow, a new record high yesterday, 17,139. That's the 15th record high this year. Who says we're not in a strong Obama economic recovery? Good morning, everybody. Great to see you this morning on a Thursday, July 17. Welcome to the program. Good to have you with us wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours. We are there with you on your local progressive talk radio station. We are there with you on the TuneIn app. If you don't have it, download it. It's free. One way to keep up with us if you don't have a progressive radio station where you live, the TuneIn app. And we are there with you worldwide on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. And a big shout out today to Finland. I don't know why.
There you go.
Just because we like Finns.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
They're Finns, aren't they? They're not Finnish.
I believe they are Finnish, but Finns is okay too.
Whoever you happen to be, whatever you call yourself, we welcome you to the program this morning on the video stream, youtube.com. And we are worldwide today because we've got from National Geographic with us, Daniel Stone, senior writer. I mean, Nat Geo covers the world for sure. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming in. Yeah, indeed. We'll get all the latest from National Geographic with Mr. Stone. And joining our team here this morning, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey.
Hey, good morning.
They're the only two we allow to have microphones. The others we don't trust with a microphone. But Alicia Cruz is there. She can't. She's too busy taking phone calls at 866-55-PRESS. And there are a lot of reasons we don't give Cyprian Bolding a microphone.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Yeah,
oh, let's see it.
On the prowl.
Our videographer, Cyprian, keeping us looking good on that video stream at TawkrTV. Vice President Cheney, you talked about this a little bit earlier. He annoyed a lot of people last week, made a lot of people angry when he continued his string of attacks against President Obama. Unlike former President George W. Bush, he hasn't gone off and pursued other things and stayed out of politics like former presidents have done lately, and just let the new guy take over without criticizing him. Dick Cheney says, those rules don't apply to me. I'm going to continue to speak out. And he annoyed a lot of people last week when he said that President Obama was the worst president of his lifetime. As Conan O'Brien pointed out last night, he pissed off everybody except one person.
In a new interview, Dick Cheney said he thinks Barack Obama may be the worst president of his lifetime. Yeah. And today, Cheney got a thank you note from Jimmy Carter.
Oh, that's right. He would have gotten a thank you note from Richard Nixon, maybe, but maybe Pat Buchanan will send him one on behalf of Richard Nixon. So Daniel Stone here to talk the California drought, among other issues. It is getting very, very serious out there, and we'll be joined a little bit later by Christina Wilkie from Huffington Post as well. But first, Peter with the big headlines of the day.
Yes, indeed. Just a couple of other stories making news. Sad news this morning as we report that Johnny Winter, guitarist, singer, music producer, has passed away at the age of 70. Not to be confused with his brother Edgar Winter, also a music legend. Edgar Winter was more of a rock guitar player. Johnny Winter, a straight-up blues guitar player. He passed away at the age of 70 in Switzerland while on tour.
Oh.
I just saw him, actually, in New Orleans at Jazz
really?
Fest. Yeah, he didn't look... You okay? You make another...
It's martini time.
I'm working on my martini.
Is it happy hour?
Oh, my goodness. He didn't look so bad when I saw him, but, you know... He admitted a couple years ago he had a history of substance abuse problems. So while that has been officially put into the reason of the death, it's one of the things that may have had something to do with it. Last night on ESPN were the 2014 ESPY Awards. the best in sports. Just a couple of the awards. Best NBA player went to Kevin Durant from the Thunder. Best female tennis player, Maria Sharapova. Best game across all sports, Alabama versus Auburn in the Iron Bowl. You remember the field goal, the failed field goal that went all the way back. And the best team, the Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, the Arthur Ashe Courage Award was given to Michael Sam, the first gay NFL plaplayer.
Donald Sterling didn't get it, huh?
I'm sorry, Bill. Donald Sterling, no awards last night at the ESPYs. And last year...
They should have given the biggest a-hole award.
That's right. Yeah, they should have started one just for him. Last year, Lay's Potato Chips started a Do Us a Flavor contest in which people could contribute their own ideas for a new flavor of potato chip. Last year, Cheesy Garlic Bread was announced the winner. It beat out Chicken and Waffles and Sriracha. This year, we have a new crop that you could vote on. Those flavors are cappuccino, cheddar bacon mac and cheese, mango salsa, or wasabi ginger. All of these potato chip flavors are available. You can try them, and then you go on the website and you vote which one you like the most.
I wonder, are there as many potato chip flavors as there are e-cigarette flavors?
We're getting that way.
Probably more. I think the bacon one, the bacon cheddar
Cheddar
one.
bacon, mac and cheese.
That appealed to me,
Come
too.
on, yeah. That's
Would you ever eat a cappuccino potato chip?
No.
That is insane.
No.
Why would you eat that?
No, right.
Why? There's no reason to eat that.
What was the last one again?
Wasabi ginger.
That's got
I would
a
try.
chance.
I would try that.
Yeah.
I would try that.
Yeah,
and then mango salsa.
That sounds good. I would do that.
Tortilla chip, maybe. Potato chip,
Yeah.
not so much.
So we talked earlier, Dan, about e-cigarettes. There are now 7,000 flavors available, 250 new flavors per month of e-cigarettes being introduced. So
Lay's has some work to do then.
I think potato chips have a way to go. Yeah. And I'd rather eat a bag of potato chips than smoke an e-cigarette. So there you go. Neither one's very good for you. I saw on NBC News last night, and the last time I was in California, everybody's talking about this drought. I mean, this is not just like a drought. This is biblical proportions, isn't it?
This is about as worse as it's ever been in recorded history of rainfall and precipitation in California. At the moment, 80% of California is in severe or exceptional drought, which is a scientific classification that the state hasn't used since before the gold rush.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That bad. So how many years has it been like without rainfall? Or not? They've had some rain, but
the amount of rainfall is about 70% below annual norms, and that's going all the way back to January. So we have this entire year.
But it's not just this year, isn't it? Isn't this year on top of?
Right. It's hard to measure rainfall and snowpack because a lot of it falls in the fall and winter no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot less of it fell this winter. And we're now seeing the effects of that now. So the summer is traditionally a dry month, but the late summer that we're heading into now, there's no more snowpack. There's no more runoff to feed the wells and aquifers that normally get fed this time of year. So less rainfall, less snowpack, even less runoff later in the summer.
You know, and a lot of people are not used to the fact, except those of us who live in California, 2 of us at least, right here, out of 3, that it's normal for California that in the spring the hills are green and in the summer they're brown, right? And that because there's not that much rainfall anyhow. But then you had all of this artificially created green, if you will, all the golf courses and all the lawns where people water, and in urban areas, and even there now that's not allowed.
No. Governor Jerry Brown came out in January and said we need to cut our water use by 20%. Everyone. That means your house, your lawn. If you run a business, it means farms. Everyone needs to play a part. And so far, 7 months later, the cut has been about 5%. That's as far as it's gotten. So falling short.
20%?
Well, I'll tell you one thing: you do not water your lawn.
Okay.
I mean, like in Sacramento. Again, I was just there. The main road leading up. I forget what the name of the street leading up to the Capitol. There's this beautiful center piece, or in the center of the road, right? Lawn all the way up, blocks, maybe 10 blocks long. It's all brown now.
Wow.
All brown.
They're not watering. Yeah.
You can't. And they just levied $500 fines per day for abuses. So wash your car with a bucket of water. No longer. A lot of people use a hose to water down your sidewalk or something, clean up. You can't do that anymore. And you can't water your lawn. I mean, just
that's the most American thing there is, man. A nice green lawn. What about? I'm curious. Like, what about showers and things inside the house and washing dishes and things? I'm just curious as to how they say you could do it, because I'm sure it could be applied, even if you're not in a drought situation, to conserve water.
Well, I think there's two parts. One, you cut back your showers, you cut back your lawn watering, you try to do what you can. That only goes so far. Ultimately, a lot of cutting back water use depends on the water diet out there, what the industries are like, which industries use the most water. And California is the worst place to have all these farms that consume so much water, because we've set up this agricultural economy where almost half of our fruits and vegetables come from a state that one wonders in the next decade can support that amount of industry.
There are orchards that are dying. There are crops that are dying.
That's terrifying.
Because they can't irrigate them this year. And one of the biggest things that I'm wondering about is, when are they going to bite the bullet and say, okay, the golf courses are just going to have to, sorry guys, you can't play.
Issue of money, I suppose.
Because
some of them,
they are enormous.
They're enormous, and they take
water.
Yeah, there is a lot of water in the West, and a lot of it.
Palm Springs. There should not be one golf course in Palm Springs.
Down there. Up in the north, in Oregon, in Washington, even over to Idaho, Wyoming, there is a good amount of rainfall, and it could be a piping system. There could be pipelines, but that infrastructure doesn't exist yet. So the state is left with this fairly archaic system of wells and aquifers that are constantly being tapped deeper and deeper, and you can only drill a well so deep before the well is completely tapped out, and that's a longer-term problem.
Yeah, but I remember living through not this serious, but a drought, in California, where people tell you really have to cut back on and you'd be surprised at how much you can do in your own household.
How clean you can get yourself in a 1-minute military shower.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what I did when I was a kid. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
If longer, my mom would bang on the door and say, turn it off.
Yeah. You don't run the dishwasher as much, or... and you use gray water, and you save all kinds of water for watering. If you want to water your plants, you don't.
Okay, yeah.
So
no, I mean, all these things are so interesting, because even if you're not in a drought, they're probably.
But people are now really spying on each other and taking pictures. If they see somebody like with the sprinklers going, they'll take a picture and put it up, and then they're ostracized.
Water shaming. # water
shaming.
Yeah.
Oh man, they call that snitching.
Yeah.
All right, we got it. So this very serious condition out there, particularly in California. And is what is the weather condition that is creating this, and is it likely to change?
It'll change. We'll get more precipitation in the fall, but the longer-term trends from the UN, the International Panel on Climate Change, show an extended trend of longer summers, of less rainfall, and more extreme droughts like this.
Climate change?
Sure, yeah. That's part of it, absolutely.
Yeah. So somebody tell James.
Which means that the problem isn't solved the first time it rains either. This is a much bigger.
That's the point. Yeah, I was making. And we haven't even mentioned the wildfire problems. We've already seen them starting this year in California, all up the West Coast, California, Oregon, and Washington, as we speak. And we're not yet into the real fire season.
Sure.
Yeah. We've got more coming up, including, we love these when Daniel Stone brings them in. We have a little test, Peter.
All right.
Test our knowledge on geography today, right? Not science.
Right.
We did so well on the science
I'm terrible
exam
at
last time. But
geography.
If you have kids who like geography, bring them to the radio.
Okay.
All right. Geography B coming up next here on the Bill Press Show with Daniel Stone from Nat Geo.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Or you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 25 minutes after the hour here on a Thursday morning. Daniel Stone with us from National Geographic with the National Geographic Spelling Bee. These are actual...
Geography Bee.
Geography Bee. I'm sorry, right. These are actual questions that are given to students?
These are questions that students across the country answer in their classrooms every year as part of the process that takes a whole year and ends at National Geographic headquarters for the Geography Bee in the spring.
All right.
So with school starting, these are some of the questions that if your son or daughter wants to compete, these are the kinds of things they'll be facing.
All right,
I also want to see how you'll fare.
Hit me.
All right. The Yucatan Channel separates Mexico from which country? Guatemala or Cuba?
Can I go? I'm gonna go. Yeah. I'll go first. I'm gonna. Oh, shoot. No, I'm going to say Guatemala.
And I'm going to say Cuba.
It's Cuba.
Damn.
That one.
Right, yeah.
Which country has more time zones, Brazil or Ghana?
More time zones? Okay, I'm going to say Brazil.
I'll say Ghana.
It's Brazil.
Oh,
you're 0 for 2.
Damn it.
Killing.
Man.
I mean, Brazil's a big damn country.
Well, I think this is a trick question. Go ahead, Dan.
Ghana's like the size of my thumb on a map. Which country is made up of many islands, the Philippines or Cambodia?
Whoa. That is a trick question. But the Philippines has a lot of islands.
I'm going to say Cambodia.
It's the Philippines.
Damn it. I told you, I'm horrible at geography.
Thank you for coming in today, Peter. to make me look like I know what I'm talking about.
Holy crap. All right, go ahead.
Okay. All right, a couple more. Which country spans more degrees of longitude, Syria or Kazakhstan? Longitude are the lines going from the North Pole to the South Pole. So more of those.
Longitude. No, what did I... Cambodia or...
No, Syria or Kazakhstan.
God. All right. Kazakhstan.
I'm going to say Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Oh, thank God I got something.
4 out of 4.
You're on a roll, dude.
All right.
I am going to show up at National Geographic headquarters with a smile on my face. Just give me the prize. Just don't even...
The prize for the B, I should mention, is $50,000.
Wow.
An 8th grader.
You know what? Yeah.
Go for it. I got 40 grand in my pocket right now already.
This one's a little easier. Denmark borders which country, Germany or Finland?
If it's not Finland, man, my geography's...
It's Finland, I think, right?
Well, no, you know what? It could be Germany.
Why would you say this one's a little easier and then give us a question that neither one of us know?
It's a Western country, you know.
I'm gonna say Finland. The hell with it.
I'm gonna say Germany.
Germany.
Oh, 5 for 5.
Oh.
Stop now.
I'll come in again. We'll read some more of these.
No. It's
Wait.
okay.
No. You are welcome back.
Yeah.
Anytime,
You
dude.
just became Bill's favorite guest.
Yes. I didn't know I was so good in geography. Daniel Stone, great to see you. NatGeo.com or NationalGeographic.com. And we'll be back and talk Koch brothers.
This
Thanks, Dan.
is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Or you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov. If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine.
I would make medicine for the sick.
I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter.
I think I'd go looking for aliens.
If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood. I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour now, Thursday morning, July 17. So good to see you. And thank you for joining us here. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers. You put them all together, you've got the SMART Union, indeed. Good men and women of the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. Find out more about their good work at their website, smart-union.org. Smart-union.org. Well, we talked a little bit earlier with Alex Bolton from The Hill about what the latest the Koch brothers are up to on the political front. You know, I wrote a whole book about them called The Obama Hate Machine, the lies, distortions, and personal attacks on the president and who's behind them. The Koch brothers, in which I identify some 57 different organizations, political organizations, that the Koch brothers are involved with or funding wholly or in part. That's their political activity, and through that, they're expected to spend $290 million on this year's Senate races, trying to get control of the Senate back to the Republican Party. Well, it turns out that's not all the Koch brothers are up to. They're also trying to infiltrate our educational system. Christina Wilkie from the Huffington Post is all over that story and joining us in our newsline in our studio this morning. You're not on the phone. You're sitting here.
No, I'm here in person.
In person. Hi,
and
Christina.
Alex Bolton is my former colleague, and he's a great reporter, and so it's a great confluence of stories.
Here. Yeah. How are you? Nice to see you.
It's great to be back.
Everything good? So how are they doing this, and what are they up to? And I hate to find out, actually, because I hate
it's going to make
so
you
much
shudder.
Yeah.
What we've learned over the past month of reporting, my colleague Joy Resmovitz and I, was that we learned of a broad, detailed plan to basically indoctrinate high school students with radical free market libertarian ideology before they could get to college, where they could be subjected to harmful, was their word for it, liberal ideas.
I see. Yeah, so they have to go through the Ayn Rand high school kind of.
And what they do is they dress it up to look, they call it an entrepreneurship course. And they say that they're teaching kids in public schools, many of them disadvantaged public schools. A lot of the kids are on reduced price lunches, So these are schools without a lot of options. They bring this course to them, and it's called Youth Entrepreneurs, and they say they're going to teach them how to start a business. And over the course of the semester, they teach them, and it's a year-long course. It's many, many hours. We've come across their curriculum, and they teach them a lot more than how to start a business.
And I mean, how do they get this curriculum into the high school program?
Schools are desperate for.
So they're giving schools a lot of money.
Yeah, they pay for it. So and curriculum's expensive. They supplement the teacher. So it's taught by a teacher at the public school, and it's taught during the school day. And so your kid would come home from school and say, well, I want to take this course. It's called Youth Entrepreneurs. They will.
Sounds good.
It sounds great. I'll learn how to start a business.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And what they'll really be teaching you is that
to hate government.
Price gouging is good. Is a video that they show the kids.
Paying the minimum wage is bad.
Minimum wage hurts workers. There is no such thing as a glass ceiling or a pay gap between men and women.
There's no income inequality.
Exactly. The poor are not, in fact, getting poorer.
I could write this course.
You really could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they put them in a very subtle way, but they're right there for if you know what to look for. The thing is that high school kids don't know what to look for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, this is like America Works, or all these political organizations, or the American Legislative Exchange Council. They sound so innocent,
innocuous. Right? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, President Obama talked about that. They come up with this highfalutin name and sounds good, and you don't realize the money behind it and the agenda behind it.
And this group was founded in 1991 by Charles Koch and his wife, Liz Koch. And Liz Koch is the chairman of the board. And their daughter-in-law, Annie Koch, also serves on the board. There's teachers for this course are trained for a week at Koch headquarters, Koch Industries headquarters in Wichita. So they spend a week in the basement learning what they're supposed to teach.
Of course.
Of course.
I prefer to call it a lair, not a basement. It's more of a lair.
All right, I'll tell you, one of the teachers who we spoke to said that he was told it was a soundproof room. Soundproof room. He said, yeah, we had this great, and the teachers who teach it, these are kids who don't have a lot of options, who might not be going to college. They believe that they are teaching valuable things, so they aren't in on it either. Yeah. But what we found was a trove of hundreds of emails between associates, youngsters in this Koch fellowship program, and they go into great detail about how they're making a generation of liberty-minded students and how they need to catch them before college, and they test them all the time to see if they're developing an affinity for liberty.
Yeah. Now, do we have any idea how many... So Charles Koch, just so you know, David Koch is the one who lives in New York and gives a lot of money to the ballet and medical research and all that kind of stuff, in addition to all of his right-wing political stuff. Charles is the one who stayed in Wichita.
Right.
And
keeps a slightly lower profile as a person.
Profile, right.
How
many school districts are they in, or how many states are they in, do you know?
Next year they will be in 42 schools. They'll be reaching between 1,200 and 1,300 kids in Kansas, Missouri, and a satellite program in Georgia. They are online. They try to reach kids after they graduate from high school, and they give them points, and you can trade in your points for money, and you can buy a laptop, or they'll help with your scholarship. So there's a lot of incentive if you're a kid.
Can you imagine?
They're bribing the kids, and they're bribing the school districts.
Can you imagine how right-wing media would freak out if this was like a progressive group that was doing this?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine, like, the TV
hair on fire
would
screaming.
Literally explode with Fox News going crazy. Like, just imagine.
Yeah.
It's insane.
No, I could just see Sean Hannity, right? Here we go.
Yeah.
And when you think of it in the context of what so many Koch-funded groups have done to dismantle the Common Core, these educational standards, to promote school vouchers, which people believe, harms public schools. So on one side of the fence, they're dismantling the Common Core, and they're advocating against, for school vouchers and school choice, but programs that sometimes harm public schools. And on the other side, these public schools that are now underfunded, especially in Kansas, then they come in through the other door and offer them, well, look what we have. you underfunded school.
That's just so crazy.
We have this curriculum, and we'll teach your kids how to start their own businesses. But we talk to them, and they're transitioning away from teaching kids about small business.
No,
and,
they're teaching. They're instilling right-wing political, philosophy or propaganda into these kids. I mean, I just was remembered when I was in high school, something called Junior Achievement.
Yes, sure.
That was supposedly taught you how to start a business or be successful in a business career.
Right.
So this sort of has that. I mean, and that was all legitimate, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is what characterizes many of the Koch-funded operations, is that they look on the surface, they look to parents and teachers and superintendents like a great program that's going to help kids, and yet what you take, the trade-off is that you take this ideology and your kids are going to sit through videos that tell them that price gouging helps everybody.
Yeah. No, you're going to come out of there thinking, I mean, because one of the differences of the Koch brothers, a lot of people give a lot of money. The Koch brothers, every dollar they give is to further their political agenda, which is, and Charles Koch and David Koch have both said this, is to get rid of all government regulations, anything that's going to impact their oil and gas business and their pipelines and their ability to pollute and befoul the environment. So these people are going to come out hating government, hating any government regulation. These kids, I mean, that's what their aim is. And there's something else about it. I was just thinking while you were talking. I'll bet you the ranch right now that this is a tax-deductible organization. I bet they are getting a tax write-off because it's under the rubric of education.
Sure, it's a 501c3.
There you go. I know it.
It's received millions of dollars from both the Charles Koch Foundation and the Fred and Mary Koch Foundation, just Koch family-controlled foundations. But it is also the Elizabeth Koch, Liz Koch, Charles Koch's wife, who is rarely in public. This is her baby. This is where her heart is, and they are expanding outwards, and the lessons that they are taught and the essay questions that they answer are they're not teaching. They're creating a kind of a person.
This reminds me of Scientology.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, Scientology of the phony religion, and this is phony
it's
education.
just all made up.
Charles Koch has his own religion, so to speak, but market-based management is his trademarked business philosophy. He's written books about it.
Yeah,
the kids are taught market-based management, MBM. The reports that we've came across are full of jargon about MBM and all the. They have challenge meetings and they have, strength, weaknesses. And Charles Koch was aware of all of this going on. He approved curriculum himself. And so we've got these emails that say, I need to run this by Charles Koch. And, I get it to him ASAP.
Yeah. This is like their whole political operation was undercover. Nobody knew about it, under the radar, until Li Fang, who then was working for the Center for American Progress, exposed it with the help of Common Cause and some other organizations. Media Matters was on it. Now, Huffington Post has exposed, thanks to Christina Wilkie, this new evil empire or evil operation of the Koch brothers trying to infiltrate America's public schools, and pretty successful at it so far. Maybe you've heard about it. Maybe you know about what's happening. Maybe one of your kids is involved in one of these programs. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, here we go. 12 minutes now before the top of the hour. The latest on the Koch brothers here. Christina Wilkie telling us about it from Huffington Post. So they're called the Youth Entrepreneurs, right?
Yes. Yeah. This is a public school course.
This is a public school
for
course.
credit.
Right. And it says that the lesson plans and the class materials that Huffington Post got a hold of make the course's message clear. The minimum wage hurts workers and slows economic growth. Where have we heard that before? Low taxes and less regulation allow people to prosper. Public assistance actually harms the poor, and government is the enemy of liberty. There it is. There's your agenda, folks. Yeah, and they will walk into a school district, many schools, public schools, of course, across the nation, hurting.
Kansas especially,
and they walk in and say, hey, we want to help out. We'll fund a course if you just let us offer it here, right?
We'll
fund
pay your teacher.
For a whole year. We'll pay the teacher. We'll even give the kids computers and everything, and just let them come in and let us propagandize them. Again, what if anybody else tried that? What if everybody says George Soros is the equivalent, which he is not by far, but what if he were, or Tom Steyer with climate change? What if he went in and said, I want to do this, I'm going to fund these classes? They would throw him out.
Go nuts. Or imagine if a pastor came in and said, I want to teach my faith. And Charles Koch believes these fundamental tenets about the world so deeply. It's like a religion for him and the people who work for him. So they talk about it. I believe this. I believe that. So they are not apologetic. They didn't get back to us as we wrote this enormous story with all of their internal communications. They don't want to talk. They haven't reached out back to us.
But you got the goods. You got the email. I mean, you brought.
We got the inside stuff.
This is the
detailed project plan that they did not ever expect anyone to see and didn't want to.
How'd you get your hands on it?
They forgot to lock their Google group. They just sat there. They named this Google group. Get this. You can see it.
Did you get this from Edward Snowden?
I only wish. It's called the Woo Teach Clan. Was this group of youngsters, right? And they gave each other nicknames, and there's a certain kind of an arrogance about how they go back and forth. But what it really comes out is these guys are planners, and they are looking to the future. They're looking to the multi-generation, the long game. And if they can capture you at 15 when you've never taken any economics, and they can just start to get you good thinking about in their way of thinking.
Brainwashing. It is. Now, have they denied any in terms of the facts? Right?
I've been trying to reach them for days, and it got to the point yesterday where I was desperately trying on the phone with another person, desperately trying to reach them, and she said, "No one will talk to you. It's lunchtime." I said, "I've been trying to reach you for days."
Yeah.
I mean, they have not responded. They have not spoken. We've spoken with a dozen people involved in the program to get our information and get their sense of it, but
your story,
not a word.
Your story's been up on Huffington Post. Is it still up?
Oh, yeah.
People can find it?
Very much.
HuffingtonPost.com.
Yes.
We'll tweet a link out to the article, too.
Yeah.
Take a look at it.
And we've got quizzes. We made an interactive quiz. They give kids these quizzes that aren't really a quiz. They're not actually testing what you know. They're trying to reinforce what they've taught you.
Sure.
So they ask you, it's always true, false. And 99% of the answers are true because they want you to keep thinking this stuff. So they say free trade is great for everyone and the source of America's strength.
Right.
True. Okay, true. And the kids market true, and they don't know what's happening to them. But they're being reaffirmed that this stuff is true and that stuff is not.
Barack Obama is a socialist. True, false.
Right. They compare.
Pollution is good for rivers, and
yes, and Europe is
dirty air helps strengthen your lungs
because it doesn't fire people. Was an essay question.
What was this now?
Okay, this question it's an essay question that they had the kids discuss, and it says if someone's just lost their job. I say that is a sad thing, but it's the reason that America is great. The reason that Europe is not as great as America is that there is not creative destruction, that it's too hard to fire people. And the kids are supposed to write an essay on that. And it's put to them in such affirmative language that at 15, I mean, you'd have to be a sophisticated adult to make the counter argument to these points they have them talk about. Racism exists, but you can overcome it is another one.
Right.
God.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so at 15, they're just going to buy it.
It's amazing what they're up to. Again, the political thing is bad enough, but at least it's out there and it's public and we can all see it. And as adults kind of fight against it, this is pretty scary because it's our kids. But we wouldn't know about it without you and Huffington Post. Thank you, Christina, so much. Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for coming in, too.
Thanks
and
a lot.
We'll have that link up so you can all read it and then get as angry as we are to learn about it. And I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says The business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, she's out on the campaign trail. She's getting big crowds. She's raising tons of money. She's a rock star. No, I'm not talking about Hillary Clinton. I'm talking about Elizabeth Warren. Yes, she's been down in Kentucky for Allison Lundgren Grimes. She's been in West Virginia for Natalie Tennant. Neither one's a blue state. Neither of those candidates are real lefty. But Elizabeth Warren has been carrying her progressive populism message, her income inequality message, her fighting for working families message into these red states and getting a great reception, which proves to me that Americans are ready for a strong populist candidate. And you're not going to hear those issues from Hillary Clinton, which is why it's all the more important that Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders run in the 2016 Democratic primary. I say go Bernie go, or go Elizabeth go. One of you or both of you have got to run. That's it for today, folks. Have a great Thursday. Come back and see us again tomorrow morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.